We're back to another episode of The Off Balance, guys. Today we have special guest, legend of the sport, Stephan Kesting.
Hey guys, so nice to be here virtually. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, would have been nice to get it done while we were filming the instructional, but we were very tight on time.
Yeah, well, we did just finish that really, really cool instructional already. I'm getting to enjoy you all over again. That just sounds wrong. As we're editing it. In fact, I'm going to sit down and do nothing but stare at your face for about probably 5 to 10 hours this weekend.
Really?
And go through it one last time to make sure that it's everything's the way it's supposed to be and that we're not missing anything. And
so all the editing right now, you're in that phase.
Yeah, in the editing phase. It's I'm not going to mention names. I saw an instructional once. It was about 10 years ago. And literally the camera turned on and the guy walks from behind the camera to in front of the camera and starts talking and talks for 2 hours and then, and then teaches a few things. He has a guy come on. The dog is running across the back of his living room where he's filming his martial arts instructional.
Yes.
Oh, I'll admit it. It was Matt Fury. Matt Fury, the original catch wrestler.
I heard that name before.
And then at the end of the video,
Fury.
It's not our generation, I think.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, it was a 1 or 2 generations ago. He was kind of the original guy who applied like the really sleazy marketing tactics to martial arts.
Okay.
Like right down to the ghost of an old catch wrestler appeared to him and gave him these techniques that he should teach. And anyhow, at the end of the video, you can see him walk towards the camera. He walks behind it, clicks the off button, and that's his instructional.
That's amazing.
That's
he just
2 hours to
film
film a 2-hour instructional. Stop, and that's what they sold.
So, you know what's funny is like
it's come a little bit along since then.
Yeah, you know what's funny is like actually even now like a lot of jiu-jitsu instructional are still like the content is really good, but like the how would you say that? Like the way it's filmed and the production, sometimes it's like almost still in the 90s.
Well, there was that thread. Was it a thread on Reddit recently going, why is the video production on the average free porn video better than the video production on the average paid instructional video, paid jiu-jitsu instructional video? And they have a point.
Why do you think that is, though?
I don't understand the monetary model behind porn. I don't. I'm the wrong guy to ask. Like, I'll ask you guys: have you ever paid for porn on the internet?
No.
Maybe if your tastes are so incredibly niche. No, that's right. That's the right thing to do to deny it.
Yeah, you might want to pay them.
Yeah.
But I think it's like it must be on ads base, like with ads. It has to be.
It must be. Okay. Have you ever intentionally clicked, or has a friend of yours who's been on a porn site ever accidentally clicked an ad on a porn site? Like, oh my God, I really want to meet those hot Russian girls who just want to have sex in my neighborhood right now. My friends have never clicked on that.
Just to note, Val is like, he's like nodding. It's like Russian girls.
Well, yeah. I think another thing that probably is the reason why is because porn's been around a lot longer than jiu-jitsu, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
This is true. This is true. Yeah, I don't understand why the production values of that can be so high, and the I do understand why the production values of the jiu-jitsu videos are low. I mean, it's a niche market, right? It's still a niche sport. It's becoming more and more popular, but compared to freaking golf or something, there's a lot less people doing it, and it's really hard to produce a good instructional, right? I mean, you need just to get the lighting and the audio right, which is two things you don't think about if they're done properly.
Yeah.
But if they're not done properly, you really notice.
Yeah, exactly.
Forget about the talent, forget about the script, forget about the editing, forget about all that. And when I started doing jiu-jitsu instructionals, I remember filming an entire instructional, spending hundreds of hours editing it because I didn't know what I was doing. I was learning it on the go. It probably took 300 hours of editing. And my girlfriend came and looked over my shoulder and goes, no, I can't see what's going on.
Oh.
And I'd realized that the lighting was all wrong. And I'd spent all these hours editing and hoping against hope that somehow in the end that the lighting when I exported it to VHS tape that it would all magically look better, and it didn't, and I had to refilm it all. Like that stuff's hard,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Okay, get off my computer, you crazy
Who's on your
Uh,
computer?
Who's on your computer? Kesting. Your cat? Your cat
Yeah,
again?
the cat keeps on wanting to invade the warmest spot in the house and the
Well,
place that gets the most response.
yeah. Well, listen. When I came down, I woke up at 4:30. We drove down. We started at 6 or we started at 5. What time did we start?
Yeah, we started before 6,
We
like
started-
5:45.
Yeah, and it was smooth, guys. Like guys listening, it was so smooth. It was like you guys have done it so many times. You guys had your way of doing things. I mean, I went through what 40-ish, 45 techniques, something like
Yeah.
that.
Wow.
And no retakes, nothing. It was just pretty easy, man. Like
That's
when
amazing.
you're doing it with somebody who's been doing it for a while, you can tell. Kind of like the porn production. I'm sure they're super smooth. They got the guys. All right, you
got it
guys ready?
down.
Start smashing. Boom, boom, boom.
Are you
Next.
telling me that they're not really virgins? Come on.
Oh, good call, Stephan.
If you don't go and ruin my illusions, I won't go and ruin your illusion.
Sure.
I was wondering, like, when did you start doing instructional? Because I feel like when I started jiu-jitsu, I remember watching you. So it's really nice to speak to you right now. Because like back in the days, like I'm not a OG obviously in jiu-jitsu. I've only been training for like 6 years, but still, when I started, I was watching a lot of your instructional. So and Taz was saying it went so smooth. So when did you start doing instructional? Like, when did that idea came into your mind, like to produce online content?
Yeah. It came into my mind in 2002. So
Wow.
I was actually just a purple belt at that time.
Amazing.
But at that time, purple belts were still fairly rare. So, I remember actually before that, when I started training with a blue belt, it was my first formal jiu-jitsu instructor. And it's like, oh my God, have you heard that there's a blue belt in town? Blue belts were in such rare demand, he would drive, jump on a hour and a half ferry, and then drive and come to town twice a week to teach because it was worth it for him. I mean, and really all the guys who were interested in jiu-jitsu at that time, and there were quite a few of us, would go and train with him because he was the best source of knowledge that there was. So, nowadays we kind of take it for granted that everybody's a brown belt or a black belt, or, that there's easy to access high level instruction. It's not always been the case. Getting your hands on good information, whether in person or in instructional, was really hard. Back in the old days, it was quite different.
What were you doing before
Why did
you
I start thinking about doing it? Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, exactly. You're just about to start doing it. What were you doing before you started doing the instructionals?
I was a firefighter.
Sick.
Nice.
And there's a saying that all firefighters are alcoholics, sportaholics, or workaholics. And I don't drink at all. So that leaves workaholism and sportaholism as my available vices. So I do both of those.
It's good vices to have.
Yeah. Indeed. I saw you smash that deadlift last night, man. That looked pretty. How heavy was that? How many pounds?
Yeah, that was 400.
God,
Not bad for a 50-year-old guy with 2 bad hips and one visiting kidney.
The
So that
That's
Canadian
I'm
the Canadian John Danaher.
well, the Canadian cockroach, the guy who just won't die no matter what fate and himself and nature
Damn.
throw at him.
Yeah.
So I started thinking about it in 2002, and it was actually Eric. The origin story, that's actually kind of interesting. So back in 2002, there weren't cameras on every phone. A video camera was a really expensive piece of kit, and typically a video camera would be, I don't know, the size of 4 toasters, and you would put a VHS cartridge on the side, and you would actually record onto the VHS tape.
crazy.
So a friend of mine, who was pretty well off, did jiu-jitsu as well, had one of these cameras, and he was showing it off, and he'd come to class occasionally and film some techniques just that the instructor was teaching. I was like, and I had been thinking a lot about attacking the turtle position. It was just one of those rabbit holes that you go down. I was, okay, well, you can either attack, if I'm in turtle, you can either attack in front of my arms, behind my arms, in front of my knees, or behind my legs. That was how I organized it, right? There's three access points on the side of a turtle. And like, okay, I can either shove my front knee in or I can shove my back knee in. And I kind of built this system. of attacking the turtle. And, you can lead into rolling knee bars, you can lead into omoplatas, you can lead into reverse omoplatas or rolling kimuras. And I thought it was pretty cool. And I filmed it using my friend's camera. It was filmed in the basement of his apartment building on a couple of old blue wrestling mats.
Jesus.
And I had this VHS tape, so I made copies using 2 VHS players, and I sent it to a couple friends of mine. I also sent it to Eric Paulson. So Eric Paulson.
Oh shit!
So who's Eric Paulson?
Yeah, it not just, if you think I'm old school, he's even more old school. Or
he is like
OG.
catch wrestling old school.
He's
right?
like dinosaur.
Catch
old
wrestling,
school.
but he's also a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, sick.
Under Higan Machado, and he was actually a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for, I want to say, 18 years.
Oh my god!
He
Forever
fell
blue
between
belt.
the grading cracks.
Damn, man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I think he's the one who got the
Um,
average of blue belts. He's the one who brought it to 2 to 3 years, because you have average, like people say, on average. He's the one who ruined it for everybody, isn't it?
Yes. He single-handedly raised the bar there.
Raised the bar pretty high.
So I sent it to him, and the next time I saw him, he's like, "Hey, thanks for sending me that tape. That was pretty good. You should sell it." I'm like, "Come on, what are you talking about? I'm just a purple belt." He goes, "You're a purple belt. You're one of my instructors. You compete, and that's good knowledge. Like, good knowledge is good knowledge."
Mhm.
And I didn't release that. I should try and find that, actually. It's
That would
pretty,
be amazing to see.
pretty original footage.
Yes, if you can find it. If
It'd
we can
be
find the
pretty funny.
VHS also. to
I
play
might
it
have
on.
still had hair.
Yeah. By the way, sorry to
and
interrupt you. What happened to the mustache? Why'd you get rid of that?
The mustache.
You should have waited till after the podcast to get rid of it, man.
Sorry.
Broke my heart.
Was it? I'm sorry to have broken your heart. It was on my face for a lot longer than any other facial hair has ever been. It was on since June till January.
I was
So
very
it's a
surprised
good,
when
it
I
had a
saw
good
it.
long run.
Yeah, at least I have a picture.
You were nervous?
We have a picture of
Surprised.
after at least I have a picture of it still, so it'll always remain. It was nice, man. It was a nice one.
It was a good keepsake from the solo canoe trip I did this summer. Right?
That's one of the things I want to ask you about.
Beard and just shaved it.
So wait,
That's why it happened.
little bit off
So then
topic.
Eric Paulson said, "This is really good," and I had his kind of benediction there. And then I
Nice.
started thinking about, well, I'm going to release something, but it's going to be more professional than this. And I released Omoplata and the Dynamic Guard. That took hundreds of hours of planning.
Wow.
And
Was that your
probably
first one?
500 hours of editing and filming.
Was that the first one?
It's my very first instructional.
Nice.
Yeah, that came
That's
out
amazing.
in 2003. So thank you, Eric Paulson. I owe him not only a full ton of knowledge, but also sometimes you just need somebody to kick you in the ass and get you to do something that you would have wanted to do anyway.
What I find more impressive about it is, like you were saying, like now we have phones, we have camera, we have like 3. This new phone that I have has 3 cameras in the back. I don't know what they're for, and it has like 2 cameras in the front and things like that. And you didn't have much equipment back in the days. It wasn't like much happening, so. There was probably something that made you say, like, all right, I need to do it. Like, did you see the potential and the opportunity in doing so before getting started in it, or was it just like, all right, I'm just gonna try it out and then see where it leads to?
I actually thought that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was doomed. I didn't think it would ever go beyond ultra niche. I thought it was way too hard on the ego. I came up in the background of traditional martial arts, right, where whether it's karate, I'm going to block here and then I'm going to deliver this, one punch, one kill to your xiphoid process and drive your xiphoid process up in your heart. We've all heard that.
The legit martial arts
from people who are serious. Yeah. Or I'm going to use a crane beak here and peck your eye out, or whatever it was, right? But we all knew this was too deadly to actually train. We all knew it.
It's too good.
Was received wisdom. Yeah. And so you could live in a little bubble of going, yes, I know I just had my ass handed to me when I was boxing with this guy, but in a real fight, I would have gouged his eyes out using monkey steals to peaches or whatever the technique was.
Of course.
And the problem with jiu-jitsu, the problem with grappling, the problem with MMA is that you get real-time feedback very, very quickly. Like if I think I've got a fantastic way to stop your heel hook, Oliver, right? I've been thinking about it. I was in the shower last night, and I'm thinking about you.
What a lovely time to think about it.
And I'm pretty sure I know how to counter it. If we then roll, I get to find out, and I'm probably going to be wrong, right? Most of the cool techniques that you dream up in your head fail.
Yeah.
And the key to having good ideas is having lots of ideas and then sorting out the good ones from the bad. But it's very hard on the ego. Like,
It is.
shit, I was sure I was going to be able to escape his heel hook. I was sure I was going to be able to escape your rear naked choke.
Mhm.
Or I was sure I was going to have this new way of sweeping you from the upside down, inside out, koala guard, or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
And most of it is failure.
Mhm.
And thus it's hard on the ego. And I thought that the public would never be interested in having their ego and their hopes and dreams smashed on a regular basis. I was
Crushed.
wrong. I'm super glad that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
People
same.
were actually in the mood for something they could test.
Yeah.
So I never thought it would take off. I just the omoplata, the first instructional, it was a test, right? It was I was in a situation where I was just brand new in the fire department. I wasn't making any money. I just bought a place. It was really, really tight to make ends meet. And I was really, okay, I might need to get a second job. But the idea of like doing the things I'd been trained to do, either as a biologist or just building houses or whatever the other standard firefighting jobs would be, they didn't fill me with joy. I was like, man, I wish I could find some other thing to do. Why don't I try out? And it was just the beginning of information products, right? That you'd see like, buy my fitness course online here, buy my book and I'll give you the 12 magic lessons to take you from a fat slob to 6-pack abs, that kind of thing.
It's the beginning of e-commerce, basically.
Beginning of e-commerce, yeah. It's like, well, maybe I should try this. Maybe I'll enjoy this more. And I was just absolutely shocked when I set up a PayPal shopping cart, and all of a sudden somebody paid me. I forget what it was, like $50 for a couple of VHS tapes. It's like, wow, it was super exciting.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, there's only one way to know if your idea
it's
works or not, man. It's to try it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100. It's so true with anything, right? Like, I mean, true in jiu-jitsu, we just talked about it, right? I think I've got the perfect heel hook counter to you, and the only one way to find out, actually, when you're going against somebody who's as good at heel hooks as you are, if I have the brand new heel hook counter, it'd be a mistake to try it on you first. First, I should try it on the beginner, the super light, weak, whitest white belt in the class, and let them catch it, and then try and work out, and then go to the little bit stronger, a little bit more athletic white belt, and then work my way up until I'm dealing, and then only after I've refined it on all the new people, the light people, the inexperienced people, should I bust that brand new technique out on you. Because if it's the first time I'm doing the counter and I'm doing it against you, who's been doing heel hooks, got his 10,000 hours in doing heel hooks, it's going to fail no matter how good a counter it is. So that's a mistake that some people make. But yeah, testing it is the key, right? Testing anything is the key. I might, we talked about how I tested an idea with Grapple Arts and tested an instructional video that turned into, a fairly all-consuming, online business.
Yeah.
We talked about heel hooks, but it's you run into people like, I tried online dating. I was talking to a sister of a friend of mine, and she's like, yeah, I tried that online dating stuff, and there were just creeps on there. So I'm done with online dating. Really? Like, okay, so you went and you tried, and you based on like 2 data points, you tried it. There's 10,000 guys on there. Some of them are going to be creeps. Some of them are not going to be creeps. What do you think the deal is at the bar? Like, is it any better at the bar?
Exactly.
Oh no,
It's probably the same.
You really have to try it and experiment with it.
Tell her to get the unlimited. Give her the credit card number. Get the unlimited so you can get as many swipes as you can. And she'll have more numbers, more better odds,
bigger database.
Yeah, bigger, larger database. And to try different, you got Tinder, Bumble, this, Hinge, Hot or Not, all these,
The last time I was on Tinder was a long time ago, and it was the era where you didn't have to pay to swipe.
Man.
So you'd be on Tinder in your car, right? You'd be driving, and you'd just be swiping right, and then select them all and sort it out later.
Yeah, exactly.
And, like, occasionally you'd look down like, oh no, who did I just swipe right on?
Yeah,
playing
exactly.
the number game.
Exactly. Listen, it's time efficiency, man. You know what I mean? Time efficiency. You got to have a strategy. You got to have just, like a system. like a system. You know, you have
Yeah.
somebody puts you in
Exactly.
X guard, you have a system to get out of it. Same thing with everything else.
Exactly.
It applies to online dating as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think this idea of having systems as opposed to figuring everything out. You know, let's go into the online dating. It wouldn't be efficient to like sit there on Tinder, because it's the example that I know, look at her picture, look at the 3 words below, think about it, decide, well, you know, based on her clothing, this is probably her background. How many kids are we going to have together? What
Yeah.
should we name them?
Yeah,
She
no.
looks like she's Ukrainian, so she'll probably want a Ukraine. No, man. Like, swipe right, sort it out,
Yeah.
go on a couple of dates, and
Figure it out after.
I would have loved
And
to
then
see your
figure it
Tinder
out.
profile. Did you have any
But,
like
there's
karate
also
gi pictures like with the mustache? That would have been
mustache,
good,
yeah.
man.
the mustache was a recent and short-lived, reasonably short-lived acquisition.
Bring it back. Please bring
Yeah.
it back, man. Please.
It's funny, and I don't know if you ever saw the picture I put on my Instagram there, where there's a picture of Otto von Bismarck, who was like a Prussian statesman at the end of the 1800s. You know, great big walrus mustache and kind of looking grim. And, like, man, I'm Otto von Bismarck's younger son.
Yeah. Dude, it was good.
Both
Sick.
rocking identical stashes.
Yeah, I was wondering about the instructional, just to get back to the topic a bit. Is it your main gig now? Is it what you do like full time?
It's about 50-50. I am still a firefighter. I've been doing that for 20 years.
Amazing.
I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, what I often use as an analogy is, if you're driving down the highway and you see an accident, everybody slows down.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to see what's going on there. So we get to actually go in there, and, you know, like we're invited in by society to go in there and try and help. So you get the dual satisfaction of being able to see things that most people don't get to see on a regular basis, and then actually once in a while help out and come home feeling pretty good about yourself or about your role in society.
For sure.
Plus, it's a although I think I'm more on the introvert side of things, it's a very, very social job, and it's a ton of fun. Like, if you're with a good crew, it doesn't matter the hall that you're at. It doesn't matter the types of calls you go to. Like, it really is
Band of
the
brothers.
crew is the whole thing, and I really enjoy that job still. So I'm still continuing to do it. So it's about 50-50 grapple arts and firefighting.
That's the most important thing you enjoy. Do you have any cool stories where you had to go into a building, save a cat, jump out the window, parachute, smooth landing with the cat in one hand, and you have like a selfie stick in the other?
That's pretty much you're pretty much describing my everyday at work.
Oh yeah. That's why you're
never
enjoying
rescued. Never rescued a cat. I have rescued a bunch of dogs.
Okay,
sick.
that's sick.
Dogs from fires. Dogs from
That's crazy.
dogs stuck in a wall.
Oh,
Years ago, I got a medal from the Governor General of Canada.
let's
The
go.
Medal of Bravery. There's 3 levels of. It's like, I don't know, the Congressional Medal of Honor. There's 3 levels of it though in Canada. The regular of the Medal of Bravery, then the Medal of Crazy Bravery, and the Medal of Stupendous Bravery. I got the lowest of those 3, but I did get flown
That's
to the
great.
Capitol along with 3 of my coworkers. There was
What happened?
a burning warehouse.
Damn.
It was a burning warehouse that we pulled up at, and it was initially, when we were coming in on it, there was so much smoke, I didn't see the smoke. It was a 5-acre warehouse, so pretty huge, full of giant rolls of paper and then other paper products.
Oh my god.
Perfect.
And so it was burning. Yeah, it was actually started when a forklift, like a propane powered forklift, was driving down, and so propane burns, so it's a burning engine as opposed to an electric forklift. Caught a piece of paper caught on fire, and trailing this piece of burning paper drove down the aisles of the warehouse, lighting everything on fire. It was completely beyond saving.
That is
3 minutes into the call.
insane. Just one little piece of paper.
Yeah. It was a big piece of paper. It was like some paper that had come off of a spool or something.
Yeah.
Pull up. It's there's so much smoke. It looks like the cloud is covering just that half of the horizon. Like, the guys are going, holy shit, look at that smoke. I was like, what? It's just a big cloud. Like, no, that cloud is the smoke. Long story short, couple guys went in. There was a collapse of all the shelving and the products on it, mostly paper products, but still heavy. One guy broke his back as he got crushed by that. The other guy was just trapped. They both started running out of air. They were both not in radio communication. So I was on what's called the RIT team, the Rapid Intervention Team, which has two guys initially stationed outside to go in for emergencies like that. It had never been deployed. You'd kind of get to, okay, you guys are RIT. You're like, oh shit, we don't get to do anything fun. We just have to sit out here and wait while everyone else gets to spray water or break stuff or run around. So we got deployed and we got bumped up to 4 guys. And we went in there and we helped the lesser injured guy get out. And then we recovered the guy with a broken back and dragged him out. The reason we got the medal was because halfway through that, basically the evacuation signal was sounded. The incident commander decided to sound the evacuation signal, everyone get out of the building. And so we were halfway through the job. We weren't sure if that evacuation signal was meant for the guys who were trapped, like, hey, in case you're trapped and you're in some part of the warehouse where we can't get in touch with you, get out. Or if it was meant for us because the ceiling, the roof was coming down. Because it was a type of construction that was vulnerable to collapse. And it did collapse just later. So we ignored the signal, went on, got the guys, came out. And it's kind of like when you give an order and somebody disobeys the order, but something good happens, you have to validate it.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
oh shit, we better give these guys a medal for disobeying the order.
Damn.
And if I guess if we'd all died in there, then they would have been able to say, well, we told them to get out. So
it's always
win-win
easy to
for
be that one
powers
person,
that be.
huh? We told them to not to do this, not to do that. Don't.
But that was the right decision.
It's not that cynical. Like they were really trying to do their best with
Mhm.
limited information,
Yeah.
right? And the point is we didn't know what they were trying to tell us, because that was also back in the day. Like that call was pretty instrumental in a number of ways. Like RIT teams are now pretty much established in pretty much every fire department in North America. Also, the days of like there being one radio for 4 guys or 2 radios for 4 guys are over. Pretty much everybody's got a radio, at least in our department, most departments I know of.
Sick.
So this way, we could have clarified, hey, was that signal for us? Or do you want us to keep on going? Like, is the roof actually coming in?
The people giving you
Yeah,
signals,
so
are they actually there or they're somewhere else?
But they're out front, but
Oh,
it's
okay.
hard. There's an idea, and it has analogies in jiu-jitsu as well. Span of command, right? If say you're running a company, this is why you've got heads of divisions. Because if you're running a company, you have 100 employees, and every employee comes to you individually, goes, hey, I don't know, this customer called and they're mad because they ordered a pink grapple grommet and they got a red grapple grommet. What do I do? And this other guy comes and goes, hey, I don't know, UPS wants his bill paid. And another guy comes and says, this car in the fleet broke down. You're going to be overwhelmed, right? You can't deal with 100 people, especially in an emergency situation. You can only deal with a few things. So what they found in the Army and the fire department is that your span of command is roughly 4 to 7 people, right? You can deal with 4 to 7 people coming up to you, giving you information. And that's why if we're all a crew and we go to a big fire, and it's true in Montreal, the guy who's in charge of it doesn't talk to all of us. He just talks to one of us. Say it's me. I go up. What do you want us to do? I want you guys to go around the back and smash all those windows. And then I come back and now I tell you guys, and you guys are my span of command, and I'm part of the incident commander span of command. Same's true of jiu-jitsu, or same's true of grappling. And as you progress, initially in grappling, you're like, oh my God, right? I don't understand anything what's going on.
That's so
right?
true.
I just totally don't get it. Then a little bit later, you're like, oh, I see that he's grabbing my wrist and he's shifting his weight and his foot's on my hip and he's pulling my head and he's moving this way and the people next to us are doing this and the people next to us are doing that. And you're taking in too much information or you're focusing on the wrong things, right? You can only focus on a couple of different things. Like maybe in jiu-jitsu, it's even less than 4 to 7. Maybe I should I've got to get rid of this grip on my wrist and not lose my balance. and then I'll worry about the next thing. Right? You can't worry about everything. You only worry about, and you kind of do have to worry about everything, but a lot of those are just on hopefully on autopilot. Right? You're like not thinking about move my left foot to the right in order to maintain balance. You're just in maintain balance mode.
It's like for
So it
for a certain
go ahead.
position, you have a certain set of answers and stuff to worry about, which might be 4 to 7 or 8 things.
Exactly.
It's like the same thing you said.
Sure. Yeah, that's maybe the better analogy is like if I'm thinking of passing your guard, I mean, I've seen, let's say, 100 guard passes. I've practiced seriously at different times, maybe 50 guard passes. I'm making those numbers up. I'd have to think about it. At any one point in time, I'm only using 4 or 5 or 6 of them.
That's true.
Same in judo, right? Judo's a great analogy. There's 67 throws in the Gokyo, but most high-level judo competitors have got 2, 3, or maybe 4 throws, and then a million ways to set it up. I mean, Oliver, are there's submissions that you've seen that you can do if I asked you to show them to me that you'd probably never ever use when you're going against somebody good, correct?
That's true. Yeah. Like the Peruvian necktie.
Like, sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you could hit it. If I said I double dog dare you to hit that on a white belt, you probably could.
Yeah.
But if I say I double dog dare you to go hit that on Gordon Ryan, it's probably not going to work because it's not what you're focusing on.
He's
right
gonna
now.
Peruvian necktie me.
Most probably.
Yeah. And then maybe go after you for asking me to do it.
Or he'll go after you online at the very least. He'll go on your Instagram.
Oh
Yeah.
no,
You don't want that.
Yeah, so it's this idea of only focusing on a certain number of things at any one point and prioritizing. Really, it's a game of prioritization. If you focus on everything all at the same time, you're going to lose every battle.
That's true. You can't do too much. You gotta like delegate things to certain people, or at least communicate and split the tasks. And there has to be like good communication and a decent understanding of whose role is what and who's taking care of what. And when that is taken care of, you have that solid foundation. I think things can move forward very clearly. It could be a good reminder for anybody listening to just set things straight at first, and then move forward. Right.
So I've got a question for you then.
Go ahead.
When you're trying to figure out how to add new elements to your game, say you've realized that, I don't know, you've been focusing on your lower body attacks. Now it's time to work on your upper body attacks.
Yes.
How then what's your process by which you decide on what to work on next? Is it just what you look around and see what's working, or you take a look at what's kind of worked for you in the past? It would probably work if you focused on it a bit more. What's your process of figuring that out?
Well, I'll give you an example. Like yesterday, I was training, and then I was working a lot of double under, like from guard getting to double under, and what's it called? The threat to the legs doesn't work as well. Threat to the back doesn't work as well because my teammates have been seeing this happen quite some time. So like I get ideas also from like when I rolled with Val yesterday, and he gets double unders. He'll do like an urigatami. You know what I mean? Like a tight arm, like the Marcelo arm bar, reverse arm bar, whatever you want to call it. And so this gives me an idea. Oh, maybe I should start working on it, and then I'll give it a try, like you said, like against like lower experienced guy, and then I'll try it again against somebody a little more legit, and then work my way up to hitting it on hopefully maybe one day Gordon. I mean, probably gonna get crushed if I try it on him, but yeah, it's the same process more or less. That's what I like about jits too. It's like that. It's real. When you're rolling, it's real. There's no faking it. You're always gonna get like legit feedback on the mats. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, that's why I thought jiu-jitsu would never take off. I thought people weren't ready for legit feedback. I thought they liked living in their little imaginary dream bubbles. So maybe it actually is a hopeful sign for society that
Yeah.
people's egos are stronger than we thought they were, and that they actually. But you know what? I mean, I always rag on golf, so maybe I should give say
Curling?
something nice about golf. There's legit feedback there too, right? I mean, I don't. If you hit the ball and eventually it goes into the cup,
Yeah.
it
hole,
goes into the
yeah.
hole and I do it in less strokes than you. Like that's legit feedback from the universe as well as like I'm doing something right. So I guess we're used to legit feedback in all areas except for martial arts. There we have to. I mean, have you seen some of the work that that McDojo Life guy has done on Instagram and
a bit of
Twitter?
that. That's
It's
amazing.
fascinating to watch people just, like I do this imaginary chi push, and 3 students fly, or bouncing an imaginary chi ball on the floor like a basketball, and then bouncing it off a wall and hitting you in the head, and you go flying.
Yeah,
It's
that's crazy.
it's fascinating from a sociological point of view.
So
Like, what has to be going through the uke's head? What has to be going through the guy who falls to the ground in his
yeah.
head
Mm.
to participate in that?
Yeah. So that's a little question I have, like a little I've been to places like I'm not gonna say where exactly, but like in Ontario, for example, I've been to small towns and there has been like some legit, practitioners, lower belt practitioners. And they come from a gym where the instructor is like a fake black belt. I'm not gonna say names, but he's like a legit black belt from a legit big team. But then you see his actual like knowledge and his actual skills, and it's not anything better than like a two-stripe blue belt. How do you Where do you draw the line between growing the sport and like bringing more
Mm.
eyes to the sport and like calling out somebody like that, and then maybe getting less people involved in the sport because you're calling him out? Now he's closing his school, now these guys can't go train. And I don't know, because the thing is, he's got an academy in the middle of nowhere. He's a black belt. He got it from somebody who's legit, and then that person probably just wanted to be, making more money from rankings. But there are pros and cons to it. People are training jiu-jitsu, they're bringing their kids in, they're doing this, doing that, but at the same time they're learning it the bad way. So if they ever really need it, guess what, they're gonna get crushed, and then they're gonna talk bad about jiu-jitsu, and then it'll ruin their reputation. So
Mm.
I don't know, what's your take on that?
It's a really tough situation. I mean, you're right. It is the dichotomy between growing the sport and uh, and it being so elite that and so legit that you can only teach if you're a 27-time black belt world champion. Right?
Yeah.
Those are the two poles.
Yeah.
Either only 27-time black belt world champions get to teach, or somebody, pretty much anybody can open a school.
Yeah.
And like I said, one of the best instructors I ever had was a blue belt. He was a really good blue belt. He was very conscientious. He admitted the boundaries of his knowledge. So I don't think you necessarily need to learn from a black belt either. And I've certainly been shown things by blue belts. Even now, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for, I don't know, 30 odd years.
Damn.
No, less than that, 27 years, something like that.
Still pretty good.
Damn. I
Blue
wasn't
belt
even.
a blue belt can easily show me stuff, or I can see stuff
Absolutely.
going, I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
It's that open
So I want to
mindset,
make
man.
I want to steer it away from like this fetishism of, like it's got to be a black belt. I mean, obviously that's better in most cases,
Yeah.
but not necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
In
There you
terms of
go.
the fake black belt, you know what? People do get exposed though. It's pretty rare. If I showed up in Temiskaming, Ontario, and there were 2 schools, the fake school that you're talking about, or the fake teacher, he's not in Temiskaming, is he? I just picked a small Ontario town.
He's probably close to it.
Oh boy. Okay. I promise we've not had this conversation. I just picked a small Ontario town.
No
So
worries. No
I
worries. We
go to
won't.
Temiskaming, Ontario, and there are 3 schools there. The internet's an amazing thing. You can do your research, and one thing I always recommend is searching the name of the instructor and the word criminal record or assault
That's so true,
charges.
though.
That often
Damn.
gives you some pretty interesting information.
Never thought of that.
And honestly, if you're going to train, if you're a town that's only got 1 school, then you only have 2 options. Well, 3. 1 is to not train. 2 is to train at that school. 3 is to start your own training group. And that's harder to say. That's harder to do if you don't have any experience. But if you have some experience and you start your own training group, man, with the internet and with the ability to travel and once a month do the 6-hour drive to, I don't know, Sudbury, Ontario, and
Yeah.
train with a legit guy there, and then drive back to your small town, you can make a fair amount of progress.
That's true.
Trouble is, I think a lot of people, and this goes back to the imaginary chi ball knockouts. A lot of people do martial arts for reasons other than martial arts. They do it for social reasons, right?
Yeah,
They do it because
community.
that's, they work all day, and
Mhm.
in the evenings they work 9 to 5, and in the evenings they can do one thing. They can go to the pub, or they can go play rec hockey, or they can go train jiu-jitsu, or they can go, I don't know, watch a movie. Most people can do one thing after work, and they've chosen to do jiu-jitsu. Part of that is the social aspect of going and hanging out with friends, or people who look like friends, or people who might become friends, or just to be with, maybe you're sitting in a cubicle all day typing, and now you want to break out of that.
Mm.
So we have to recognize that a large part of the martial arts reward, even for guys who are doing it competitively, is the social environment.
100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
So yeah, I mean, what are you guys are hanging? Two guys hanging out on a couch bullshitting with another guy.
We're pretty close this
That's
time.
this podcast.
Yeah. If
Yeah,
you,
Pretty much
if
the
you
I
notice,
noticed how
we're,
your arm has started drifting over his shoulder there.
so you were talking about
That's
you're
it.
talking about testing things out. This is the first time we test two of us behind the mic
Yeah.
on a Skype call, so we're pretty close. If you're watching
Alright.
this on the screen, you're gonna get two crotch shots really close up to each other,
Yes.
and Pio and I really close. Go on YouTube, check it out. It's worth it.
And Val keeps saying like, you guys
Get
gotta
closer,
get closer.
It's Val, man. Val, it's his fault.
Val's loving it. He's like, put your hands on his thigh.
Put your hands on. Okay, Val, I'll do it. Yeah.
But going back to what you were saying,
Let's
actually,
just jump back to Temiskaming. If there are 3 schools
Yeah.
in that town, now you got a bunch of choices. You can not train, you can start your own training group. But realistically, if you're going to train jiu-jitsu or any other martial art, you're going to spend hundreds of hours sweating, maybe bleeding, straining, cursing, struggling. You're going to pay lots of money. So why not go and check out each of those 3 schools, do a class at each of those schools? When I moved to Montreal, actually, I want to say in the 80s, to go to McGill.
Sick.
I was coming from a traditional kung fu background. I'd done some JKD, I'd done some judo. I wanted to change up my training and find a much less traditional school. But I didn't know what I wanted. It was like a blank slate. So I actually had a physical notebook. I wish I still had it. And I made a list of all of the schools that were in the yellow pages. And the yellow pages for the kids is kind of like the internet, but on actual thin paper.
Yeah.
And I went and trained. I took a class at every school I could take a class at. I went to kung fu schools. I went to Chufendo schools. I went to JKD schools. I went and trained at each school, made notes afterwards as to how expensive it was and whether I liked the instructor and whether I thought the people there were good. And eventually I ended up training with Philip Jelena, who runs Jelena Academy of Martial Arts there in Montreal. And I was very happy there. It was a perfect fit for me at the time. And I'm still in touch with Philip. And if you're going to invest all this time, doesn't it behoove you then to go and explore your options? So,
Absolutely.
for God's sake, go and try out. Again, don't think about it. Don't research it. Go and try it.
And it's
If a school doesn't allow you to try a class, then it's crap.
Yeah.
If a school doesn't give you a free intro, then what are they hiding? Oh, you can't watch our training. It's too secret. Really? Okay. That's a nice red flag. Goodbye.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's your responsibility too, as a not only like the guy who trains, but a client of a school, like to make sure, like, if you want proper training, you got to seek it at the same time, right? It's one of the reason why we travel, we travel to Henzo's or like to other places just to get some training in, because it's your responsibility. If you want to get good instruction, you got to seek it. And one of the things we were saying too about the like the mech dojo or like bad instructor and stuff like that. I feel like jiu-jitsu a bit like wrestling because of that live feedback we were saying. Like, these guys are gonna get exposed over time. So maybe they'll be in business a bit, but at the end of the day, it's like it's because you have competition, you have people that like train for real, and you have like real life feedback. They'll never grow. Like, even if the sport grows, those guys are gonna be, I think, a minor portion.
And the internet will expose like the really egregious examples of, like, this dude took my credit card number and charged me $10,000 for the black belt program without my consent. Or, this dude abuses his students, or this guy doesn't know anything. Like, yeah, any school is going to have a few bad reviews, maybe from your opponents or your competitors in class, in the same competitors in the same city.
Yeah.
But if you do your research and you go and you try it out, and A, you're getting bad vibes, or B, you by going to check out multiple places, you realize, well, wait a second, not every school wants to charge me $10,000 for a black belt program. Not every school has a 1 year penalty. You got to pay 1 year's worth of dues if you want to quit. Not every school charges me $400 for a gi that I need to change every 6 months, or whatever it is.
Shots fired.
It allows you to make the comparisons.
Yeah. The most academies that I see, like with the gear, I was just at Ken Peters' academy, Zombie Proof. He has his gear company. He doesn't force anybody to buy it. Everybody's wearing it. And we have the same thing happening here in Mizu. We have a little scramble boutique. We don't force anybody. Everybody's wearing it. It looks great.
And that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it.
Mm.
And I actually don't have a problem with a school uniform. What drives me personally, I understand why schools and chains do it, is the huge markup on those uniforms. I mean, I know how much they're getting those gis for. They're $40, $50.
Yeah.
Landed, probably.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you're charging me $200 for it. I understand that it makes ends meet. I understand that it is sometimes the difference between that school going out of business and that school staying in business. I recognize it, but I don't like it. So
I agree.
Alibaba.com, do your research.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
I want to use that
Although
opportunity.
you can majorly get ripped off on. I know at least 2 or 3 people who put in big orders for for gis. We're talking like $5,000 to $10,000 orders, $5,000 to $10,000 worth of gis. Ordered it from Pakistan, not Alibaba, and that money met. They sent a couple samples, and then the big order disappears. So you can get ripped off. So there is I understand if a guy's taking a $50 gi and selling it for $100, you got to cover your costs, you got to cover your time, you got to cover the investment, the
work.
risk. Sure, but a lot of this is really pretty expensive.
Yeah,
and really adds to the cost.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Stacks Bundles from Ontario. I giving this example. I have a fresh one in mind. He's in Chatham, Ontario. Has his academy, Concept BJJ. It's called. He did the same thing. He was at a place where the black belt wasn't legit, and the school was run very poorly. People were getting staff. Mats weren't being washed. It's puzzled mats. The guy has the money to upgrade. He's keeping it to himself. I go down for a seminar. He doesn't show up. He doesn't want to train. Doesn't want to learn. So the guy decided, all right, you know what? I'm going to do my own academy. And then it's been working out for him very well. And then he's using things like, he's bought some of your instructionals. He bought some of the guys from Hinzo's instructionals, and he's learning. And, they're doing positional sparring there. They're putting in work, and, the academy's growing. It's great feedback. They have a huge women's class, very good kids program. And, I'm happy to see people kind of do what you said, which is start their own group, and it's going to be better for the sport on the long run, I believe.
Yeah, I think nowadays, I mean, back in the old days, it was really hard to get information.
Of course,
it was. Now the problem is not information. The problem is categorizing that information. It's not a question of knowledge. It's a question of context, right? We could get in a room, we could go on YouTube, and we could spend, if we took enough methamphetamine and cocaine, we could stay up for a week solid doing a new technique every 2 minutes, right? We go on YouTube. Oh, look, here's another submission from the turtle. Here's another submission from Spider, Della Spider Guard. Here's another sweep from, from turtle, whatever. So the knowledge isn't the problem. The problem is context. Some of that stuff's better than other stuff. Some of that stuff will work only against white belts or low level people who don't have the right responses. Some of that stuff is only for really flexible people. Some of that stuff is only for people with a background in wrestling. Some of that stuff is only for people who've got a neck, 18-inch neck. Some of that stuff only works with a gi. So then how do you provide content? And some of that stuff's not right for you right now, right? You're building a guard passing game. Why are you going off and learning another wrist lock from the bottom of side mount or whatever? So the problem is context. And that's really what I think ultimately people are paying for in an instructional is, yes, they want details. Yes, they want techniques, but they also want context and know how it all hooks together.
Boom.
And we're back to building not entirely a system for your whole entire jiu-jitsu, but a system that you can plug into your game and play, have a reasonable chance of having it play within a reasonable amount of time, right? Like here's an approach to getting out of the bottom of side mount. And then that guy who's been going along in jiu-jitsu and then has just hit a total brick wall, totally plateaued out and just is stuck on the bottom of side all the time, every day. They can go and find that module and they can have some faith in it. Yes, this is for normal sized people. Yes, this doesn't require crazy flexibility, or maybe it does require crazy flexibility, right? Like maybe I'm stuck on the bottom of side mount. I've got crazy flexibility. That's one of my attributes. I'd probably start going to some of the 10th planet stuff and figure out if there's some kind of trick there.
Because it's
I'm
what
gonna
you
get all
need.
8
Yeah.
from 10th planet guys.
It's true. It makes a lot of sense what you're saying, because some of the things you'll see on YouTube, social media, wherever you find it, it's just a bunch of random things. Whereas if you categorize it and kind of organize it the way you're saying, people can pick and choose. Okay, this is what I need to work on. Who's doing this? Who's good at it? And I think people will be able to like you say, the context, pick a good context and improve a lot better, and then put it to better use for sure.
It's using a system for your own training.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Well, there are systems that you apply in your training, and then there's also the system of
of jiu-jitsu itself.
How are you organizing your overall training, and those
Yeah.
are two different things. And that second thing actually is pretty tricky. Like that's depending on, are you competing or are you not competing? What level are you competing at? How much time can you dedicate to this whole crazy jiu-jitsu thing? Are you injured or are you not injured? I
True.
mean, that's some stuff that you guys are dealing with every single day. That
Yeah.
I think my body's too torn up at this point to give serious thought to competition. I mean, maybe after they've got the nanobots, they can inject, it just goes to every joint that's injured and it just magically repairs it. I'll go into the double ultra mega seniors.
Let's go. Let's go, Kesting. We'll be there, man. We'll be there in the stands.
Yeah, we'll be
Kesting,
cheering.
Kesting.
You provide the nanobots, I'll provide the entertainment. Structuring your game is especially, or structuring your training as opposed to structuring your game. Then how do you fit conditioning in there? How do you fit, I mean, one great competitor that's kind of anomalous, he's in New York, is Marcelo Garcia, right? Like, how much conditioning did Marcelo Garcia do? Not much. He would do the warm-ups at the beginning of class, right? Some push-ups, some plyometrics, some jumps, some sprints, some shrimping. Now, that was a fairly hard workout at the time that I went, the week that I was there.
Yeah.
But it's not like, okay, now you're gonna load your barbell with this amount of weight and do this kind of plyos. It was kind of like a slightly more intense jiu-jitsu warm-up. But his success is undeniable, right? Marcelo Garcia did pretty well.
Yeah.
For many years, gi and no gi. So that worked for him. But just because not doing additional conditioning worked for him doesn't mean that it works for 90% of the guys. I mean, Oliver, what percentage of, let's say, guys at in Abu Dhabi or are lifting weights or doing conditioning outside of the jiu-jitsu they do? I'm guessing 95%, but I could be wrong.
I would say
99.
99.
99. Okay, so I was wrong.
Yeah, no, you have to do it, man. You have to do it at least to maintain and to protect your joints. Speaking of which, you say your body's all beat up, but you do these crazy trails and these crazy canoeing trips. I'd like to hear a bit about that, because some of it is really, really fun, and I'd like to one day do some of the things we're talking about. The first thing I want you to tell me about is the canoeing trip you did in the Arctic or somewhere like that. Where was that?
Wow.
Sure. That was in the Arctic.
That's crazy.
It's a trip I've been planning for like 20 years. Or I started daydreaming about it about 20 years ago. It was just, I I really like looking at maps, and I like looking into the history of, I look at a map, and especially if it's annotated a little bit, like Ragnar Johansson used to live here, and he was a famous traveler. So I start going down a rabbit hole about who the hell was Ragnar Johansson, and so I really like history. And so about 20 years ago, I started researching this area of the Canadian North, the Fleur Louisa. It's Newton Lake is this big lake that sits on the border of Manitoba and the Northwest Territories, and now they split the Northwest Territories, so now it's on the border of Manitoba and Nunavut. The southern part of it is in the trees, it's in the forest. The northern part of it is in the tundra. So as you paddle up the 100 miles or so of it, you go from the forest to the tundra. So that always seemed really cool to me. And then you can travel down one of the rivers that exit that lake to Hudson Bay. So growing up in Ontario, which is where I grew up, almost everybody in Ontario has paddled a canoe at some point. It's another passion of mine. In addition to jiu-jitsu, I used to be really heavy into whitewater paddling. It was really hard to balance the whitewater paddling, the jiu-jitsu, the firefighting, and then being a parent. Like, I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't keep on paddling well enough to be safe in the stuff that I liked paddling. So I had to ditch the high-level kayaking, the high-level open boat, running the grade 4, the grade 5 stuff, where there's serious consequences. If you screw up, you could drown. Right? I didn't want to drown. So for 20 years, I've been researching this trip, but I was originally going to go and do it in 2014. Life got in the way. It's really hard to organize these things. It's even harder if you've got young kids, if you've got an ex-wife. That was still a fairly acrimonious stage of my divorce. It's pretty amicable now, but that was a hard time in my life. So there was no, hey, honey, sorry, we're divorced. Would you mind taking the kids for 8 weeks while I go up to the Arctic to do this thing for me with, money that I don't have?
Not easy.
Not easy at all. So finally, last year, it started looking like maybe I can actually pull this off in 2019. And then it was a really, really complicated thing to organize. People think about the paddling, the canoeing, the lining, the portaging, the traveling upstream. That was tough. It was just a hair under 1,000 miles. Oof. It was a series of different rivers, some of which I was going upriver on, which is a lot of work because you're dragging the boat. You're wading in the river, you're walking on the shore, pulling the boat with ropes, you're portaging around rapids. It was a lot of work. I had it planned for 50 days, and it took probably 150 days to organize it, just to make sure that, you know what? I should probably have the telephone number of every bush plane company within 1,000 miles in case I break my leg and I need an evacuation. Yes. All right. Now you're spending a day. Sorry, go ahead.
So I was just asking, did you do this all by yourself?
Oh, yeah, sorry. That was the key thing. I wanted to go and do this alone. In the past, I've done long time ago in my 20s, I did some longer canoe trips on my own, and I found it really rewarding. I do like, hiking and canoeing and, traveling with people, but once in a while, I also like doing it on your own. It's a very different experience to go do something like that on your own. So, for example, on this trip last summer, the solo trip, I've got some photos of it, actually. If you go to grapplearts.com/solo, I basically posted a whole bunch of the pictures I took and wrote little descriptions of each day, more or less. So that might be an interesting resource. There's also a video on YouTube. If you do a search for 1,000 Mile Solo Stephan Kesting on YouTube, you get to sort of a 4 or 5 minute highlight video.
Sick. We'll add that. We'll add that in the bio.
Sorry, go ahead.
We'll add that in the bio of the podcast so people can watch it. Because this is super interesting. You're kind of making me travel like sitting on this couch. So I'd like to hear more of it. Go ahead.
So yeah, it took a ton of organization, right? The levels of redundancy you need if you're going to be traveling by yourself in the Arctic. There was 3 little native villages along that 1,000-mile route, and they were all in the first half. So it wasn't like I was completely isolated for the first half of it. The second half, I saw nobody. No fishermen, no natives, only hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of caribou, and some
Wow.
black bears and grizzly bears. Fortunately, no
Wow.
polar bears.
No, oh yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely polar bears, but I didn't see any this time. They're all they're close to the Hudson Bay coast, and now as the climate is warming, shots fired. Yes, the climate is actually warming, and the polar ice is receding. The ice on Hudson Bay is receding. The bears are often having to go further inland now, so that's pretty well documented. So you can run into polar bears, 100 miles inland. It's not unheard of.
Whoa, that's scary.
So it kind of increases the danger zone. Yeah, they're, black bears will eat plants and animals and gophers and larger animals, and grizzly bears will eat plants and berries and gophers and larger animals, and polar bears eat only about human-shaped objects.
Perfect.
Right? They eat seals.
And
So
they're
you are
hungry.
basically a seal that can't swim as well.
Yeah, exactly. We're
They
just
are
handicapped,
hungry.
And
autistic
they're,
seals.
They're giant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one way to go.
Handicapped seals. Yeah. Exactly. Who could be knocked out of their boat, knocked off a very small ice floe.
That is some.
Yeah. So I
scary
started
stuff, man.
on June 3rd. No, I started July 1st in a small little town at the end of a long dirt road in northern Saskatchewan in Missinippi. I went down the Churchill River. That was still, occasionally I'd see every couple of hours I'd see a fisherman there, and then it started getting more remote, and seeing people became less and less frequent. And then I headed upriver on the Reindeer River, which is I didn't see anybody on the Reindeer River except at the very end. Then I got to Reindeer Lake. Reindeer Lake is enormous. I want to say it's 250 kilometers long, so roughly 160, 170 miles long. It's so wide in parts that you can see you can't see the opposite shore because of the curvature of the Earth. Yes, in addition to climate change being real, the Earth is actually round. I don't know how many flat earthers you have listening to your podcast, but I'm firing shots at them. Yeah,
Look into it.
Look into it.
You look and you can't see the other shore.
So cool.
And there's so many islands and bays, and there are bays that if you go down the wrong way, you're going to paddle 30 miles before realizing that you're in the wrong place. And also storms, when they come up on that lake, are gigantic, right? It's a very it's probably the most dangerous part of the trip, the large lakes. Not the rapids, not the bears, not getting lost, not hypothermia. It's the large lakes getting blown out to sea and never being seen again. Then I went up the Cochrane River, and about a third of the way up the Cochrane River was the last little native town that I passed, Lac Brochet. Continued up the Cochrane River, then did a portage, which took days, into the upper reaches of the Flay Louisa, which took me down to Newton Lake, north on Newton Lake, and then Newton Lake down to Hudson Bay. So if somebody wants to follow on a map, that's kind of it. Or they could see a map of that at the graplarts.com/solo page. It was beautiful. It was really hard. I wouldn't say most of it was enjoyable, but it was really satisfying, man. I was so destroyed by the end.
Oh, for sure.
I can only imagine.
The
man.
last, I lost
Insane
15
trip.
pounds maybe.
What? Damn.
Yeah, 15 pounds, pretty shredded, hardly sleeping. Like I slept terribly for some reason, especially as you get closer to Hudson Bay. It's also, you're just so tired after paddling for 14 hours into a headwind.
No shit.
That you'd think you're tired, you can sleep. No, you can't sleep. You need a couple hours to unwind first. But now it's, you set up camp at 9 o'clock at night. By the time you're wound down, it's midnight. Now you got to get up again at 5 and go. So it's pretty destructive on the body. I had enough food. I carried 50 days worth of food with me.
Wow.
But I just couldn't eat enough to maintain body mass.
Of course. Always working.
I couldn't get enough down my throat. Yeah.
Were you fishing?
And cold.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't fishing. Everyone asks that. I wasn't fishing for a couple of reasons. One, I thought if I was fishing, I should be paddling. And in terms of having a line out behind the boat, you reel that fish in. Now you got fish smell on your hands, and now you get fish smell on your clothes. And the number one thing to keep you safe from bears is not smelling like a fish, not smelling like food. So I thought,
good point.
I thought it'd be safer to avoid, to go minimal smell.
So what were you eating?
I could. Lots of dinner
Nuts?
or breakfast. basically the same thing every day,
Dry food?
with a couple of exceptions. Yeah, 100% dry food. Breakfast every day was pretty much a muesli mixed with water and a protein shake, like a Vega protein shake mixed together to make this green chunky swirl. Yum. Throughout the day, made these almond buttered date balls that were pretty good.
Sick.
Nuts.
Yeah.
A little bit of beef jerky. Some candy just for the sugar.
Yeah.
Lots of chocolate. Dinner either be a pasta or like a big vegetable stew, all with dried vegetables. And then the few times I went through a native village, man, it was just no holds barred. Like I'll get an entire container of Haagen-Dazs and just sit there. Do you guys have a spoon that I could have and just eat the whole thing?
Let's go.
It just at that level of caloric expenditure, it doesn't matter.
Did you interact with any of the natives at all?
Yeah. My favorite were the fishing guides, like the old native, the old Cree fishing guides who'd been out there, for 50 years showing people where to fish, like on Reindeer Lake. It was really cool to meet some of them. And actually, so I ended up on Hudson Bay. Hudson Bay is gigantic. It's like 800 miles across. It's really like paddling on Hudson Bay is really dangerous. I thought I might have to do it. That was my backup plan if I couldn't organize my pickup with a satellite phone. I did manage to organize a pickup, but my backup plan was to paddle about 50 miles on Hudson Bay to a small village called Arviat. And I'm so glad I didn't, because it's a 15-foot tide. It's 5-mile tidal flats. So when you look at it, when you're out at sea, when the tide is out, you can't see shore. You don't know where you are. You're following a compass. You're hoping you're going in the right direction. Yet it's so shallow that when the tide comes in, the tide goes out, you get white water on the shore of the bay. It's just going through the tidal flats. You got bears everywhere, and you've got giant storms that have got 800 miles to pick up speed and just slam you. And they're not necessarily can you make it to shore because it's so flat, right? You could be in water that's 3 inches deep, but then a 4-foot wave comes in on top of you. Like that's tough operating conditions.
Damn, you're like the Canadian David Goggins.
I want. Well, I know because I bravely ran away and tried to avoid that portion of it because so in the end, I managed to arrange a pickup, and it ended up being the wildlife conservation officer of the territory of Nunavut. So a territory is kind of like a state for the American listeners, or it's like a province.
Mm-hmm.
There's a wildlife conservation officer on his days off, who's a native, who's Inuit, from Arviat, and his father. His father was in town for the day. His father was the premier of Nunavut. So it's kind of like the governor of the state.
Yeah.
Was home, wanted to spend some time with his son. His son's about to go and, his son's like 30-year-old guy, is about to go pick up some crazy canoeists. He's like, I'll come with you. So it was me, the conservation officer of Nunavut, and the premier of Nunavut, Joseph Ikatok Sr. and Joseph Ikatok Jr. In a boat for 3 hours riding up the coast of Hudson Bay. It was crazy. I'm out there. Now, it's true, I've been up for hours and hours and hours working my ass off, just freezing. But it's a cold day. It's just a couple degrees above freezing. Yeah. There's a wind blowing. Oh. There's spray from the boat. Oh. I'm just freezing. Oh. And these guys are out there like, what? It's summer. Yeah. No gloves.
They're used to it.
No hat, no nothing. Yeah, it's maybe genetics too.
Yeah, it could be.
I mean, after 5,000 to 10,000 years of living in Arctic conditions, I'm pretty sure that Inuit would have developed some physiological adaptations to surviving the cold.
You're probably developing some of it too, man. You also did before we shot the instructional. You did a hike of you woke up at 5 and you kept walking till like 5 the next day or something like that. Was that it?
Yeah, that was it's a 50-kilometer hike in the mountains with a 5,000 meter elevation change. It's kind of like a
beautiful.
Damn.
My hips are pretty bad. And I'm using this as a gauge. When I can no longer do that hike, then I'm going to go get some work done on the hip. I get the hip replacement, just like John Danaher.
I'm telling you, man, you're the Canadian John.
So that's kind of my gauge for how those hips are doing. They were good for the first 3 quarters. They locked up pretty good on the last quarter. So the last quarter was pretty slow. I think we started at 5 in the morning and we ended at midnight. So it wasn't quite 24 hours,
Amazing.
but it's just, and a lot of that's in the dark with headlamps. The outdoors is like I said, there's kind of two big loves in my life. One is jiu-jitsu and jiu-jitsu in specific, and the martial arts in general, and the other is the outdoors.
Yeah.
So
I
trying
can
to balance
understand
those
that. Yeah,
things.
of course.
Vancouver is very good for that, man. That's what I really liked about BC. It's so pretty. We had sun for one day. I was there for a week, and then Sunday, while you were hiking, I think there were no clouds, and then you can see the mountains everywhere, and they had snow on top of them. It was I'm going back in summer for sure to BC. Even if there's nothing planned, I'm going back there 100%. So nice, so beautiful.
You'll get some seminars here for sure. Like people really like your seminars.
Yeah.
Because you're teaching stuff that works at a high level, and not just teaching it. Okay, here's a choke against the turtle, and now here's time for a guard pass, and now here's time for a butterfly sweep, and now here's the leg lock.
Yeah.
You're not sporadic or spread out like that. You're actually systematic and try and teach stuff that makes sense.
It. Yeah.
Sequence.
I'll bring Pio with me.
It
would be amazing, man.
I'd love to have you.
We need to be too. I can't be giving crotch shots alone. You need to come with me. Share some of that. Share some of that with me. Yeah. It's nice though. It's nice, man. You're doing these things. It's like you don't have to do it. You know it's tough. Like you're just stepping out of the comfort zone. You're doing something you like, and it's probably super rewarding.
And you're enjoying it for sure.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, enjoying it sometimes. Like, okay, sure, most outdoor activities are enjoyable, but you also go into some once in a while you got to push yourself, right? Like sometimes, when I'm doing that, I call it the death march, that hike, or doing that 1,000-mile solo. I knew that there would be portions that would just absolutely suck, but afterwards, it's the mountaineers or mountain climbers distinguish between three types of fun. Type 1 fun is it's really fun when you're doing it. You're rolling with a white belt. Type 2 fun is it's fun when you stop doing it. Right? You're rolling with somebody who's really good and they're mashing you, and maybe you're getting back at them sometimes, and it's in the moment you're not going, man, this is fun. You're going, shit, I'm gonna choke you out. I'm being choked out. But then it's fun afterwards. Type 3 fun takes a couple of years afterwards for you to whitewash it and go, you know what? That was hard at the time, but I only remember the good bits now. So there's type 1 fun, type 2 fun, and type 3 fun.
So basically everything is fun, the way you look at it.
Yeah.
By their perspective. Everything should be fun.
Maybe in the long run.
Like I'm sure that when you're competing, Oliver, when you step out onto the mat, are you having fun in that moment, or is it fun afterwards?
No, it's not fun on the moment. It's not.
No.
Even losses, some losses, I look back at them and I'm like, oh yeah, it was a good match. It was a good learning lesson. It was good to look back at it now. Obviously not 2-3 days after, but when you look back at it.
That's type 2.5 fun.
Yeah, type 2.5, yeah.
Yeah.
It's sick. So you probably, like, I wanted to ask you, before we close out, like if you had any regrets or if you wanted to give yourself an advice, like the Kesting that's just starting jiu-jitsu or martial arts, do you have any?
Man, I don't know. But when we were filming together, Oliver, like you could see that my movement was impeded by my hips. So I wonder if I should have done as much running. On the one hand, I really enjoyed the cardio that came from running. There's nothing like running when you've got good cardio. But if your hips have already been damaged by years of doing judo, and judo on really hard mats or judo on wooden floors because you think it's a good idea because you want to be really tough, and then you're over 200 pounds, maybe 210, 220, and you're still running, man, you're beginning to push the limits and you're going to pay that price. So I wonder if maybe if I'd taken better care of that body part somehow. Okay. On the other hand, it did really help cardio. Like there's nothing like running to develop cardio. So I'll let you know after my hip replacement whether I regret doing that. It depends how that hip replacement goes. For a lot of people, it goes pretty well.
Do you think you're going to have to do it?
I think, oh yeah.
100%.
100%. I went in, 100%. I went in for, a consult with a doctor, and they took X-rays of both my hips, and my right hip is the one that hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at it, and I looked at the X-ray, and I'm like, so how's my right hip doing? He goes, well, let me put it this way. Your left hip is so bad that if most people had your left hip, they'd be begging me for a replacement. I don't even want to talk about how bad your right is.
Oh.
So yeah,
Cool,
it's. But I am getting one bit of advice there. It's expensive, but it works pretty well for a lot of people. Works really well for me.
Mhm.
Is an injection. You use a needle that's about 12 inches long. It goes in through the middle of the thigh, goes right into the hip capsule, and they inject it with something called Monovisc or Synvisc. Synvisc works better. It's more expensive.
Mm.
That needle going in the first time you have it is freaky. But I discovered a trick since then. I just hyperventilate almost to the point of passing out. And it's something I learned from listening to a physiologist who worked with Wim Hof, which is if you hyperventilate, you slightly change the alkalinity of your blood, the acidity of your blood, and that knocks out some of the pain receptors.
Sick.
So it's actually much, like you got to explain it to your doctor because they're going, calm your breathing. Like, no, I'm intentionally going
in his face. Yeah, let's go.
intentionally, right? Intentionally, and it actually makes the pain quite a bit less.
Wow.
Maybe somebody had anxiety disorder. That'd be the wrong approach.
Yeah,
Probably, yeah.
The other bit of advice: tap out earlier in neck cranks. Like if you're caught in a neck crank,
definitely.
you've got a choice as to like maybe you can get out, or maybe you can get out by tapping. You know what? Unless it's the finals of Abu Dhabi, unless it's the middleweight championships in the UFC, man, just tap.
Mm-hmm.
Like so many grapplers end up with neck problems that we all got to really just baby our necks, and the easiest way to baby that is tap out anytime your neck is getting jammed, and that's hard because there you're fighting not against your opponent but against your own ego. It's like, I'm not gonna tap to this stupid and yeah, it hurts in the moment, but I promise I'm here from the future to tell you that that's going to come back.
That's it.
And make another visit 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. It's
I'll
not
take
gonna be
this
friendly,
advice.
so.
I'll take your advice, man. I'll definitely take your advice for sure. Man, Kesting, we could talk for hours with you for real.
think so, yeah.
Like we could hear so many more of your stories. But I think with this advice of being careful and everything, I think it's a good place to wrap it. Guys, listening.
Well, if
yeah, go ahead. No, you wanted to say something.
depending if people like it, we can always do another one. So.
For sure. No.
For sure.
We'll
We'd love
have
to
you.
have you,
Would
yeah.
love to have you back on for
Thank
sure.
you so much for coming in.
Thanks for taking the time. I know you're super busy. You got the so for the listeners, we have Kesting has a website called Grapple Arts. There are instructionals on it. There are the videos of his solo trips. There's a bunch of cool things you guys can check out.
We'll put it in the bio and on the podcast.
And soon there'll be your instructional too. Maybe by the time in a week or two. So maybe by the first week of February, I'm hoping we'll have the Oliver Taza leg lock instructional.
Sick,
pretty amazing.
sick. Yeah,
which is amazing, and people will find it amazing as well.
Did you think it's good? You think it's going to come out nice?
Yes, I think it's awesome. Yes, 100%.
Very nice.
It's really going to fill a nice niche in the market.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to plug before we close this out?
Yeah. Thank you for plugging the website, grapplearts.com. I've got my own podcast. I'm about to release the chat that I did with you, Oliver, on it. It's the Strenuous Life podcast. I'm up to episode 250 now, so that's been going for a while.
Yeah.
And if you can't find me on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, then I'm not doing my job. So I'm on all those platforms.
He's on all those.
Man.
Find me if you enjoy using those platforms.
Sweet. Kesting. We'll link up for the instructional, see if there's anything. I think people will like it. It's stuff that I teach at a lot of seminars. So people, even if they've seen it before, it's going to be broken down in more details. There's the basic mechanics, how you finish, how you transition from one to another, entries, and we kind of break it down so it's simple as possible, and then it covers as many things as possible. So I'm looking forward to that. Say hi to Juan. It's Juan, right?
Yeah.
Say hi to Juan for me.
He spent a day locked in the dojo with us filming. So
yeah, he's a legend.
That's great.
Kesting.
Right. Thank you so much, guys. Greatly enjoyed this.
Take care.
Thank you.
So Kesting has logged out.
Yep.
I think it was a great chat with the legend.
It was an amazing podcast, to be honest. I'm so happy we get to talk to him. Like,
Mhm.
he has so many stories, man.
So many stories, but like if we compare it like to what we talked about with Brianna, with Corey, with us, what we say, it's usually the same thing, just another way of putting it. It all boils down to the same thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of topic that comes back, like about the way you train, or what are people seeking, and all that stuff. And
Mhm.
I think it just confirms it again.
Tinder advice.
Yeah, porn and Tinder advice.
Porn
today.
and Tinder
Yeah, it was
advice.
great.
Basically, if you want to take something away from this episode, that's what it should be.
Yeah. All right, support.
Support sheet. Time for the support, guys. First, how you support? You subscribe. Subscribe so you know when we release the new episodes.
Yeah.
Follow us on Off Balance. We have a new Instagram account for the Off Balance. We will be posting excerpts. If you guys don't want to listen to a full hour and a half of us rambling, or you don't want to take a look at our crotch shots, then by all means, it's cool. We will have minute clips. So when there's like a message we want to send out, all you have to do is, just look at that 1 minute and then stay up to date.
Definitely.
So make sure to do that. Subscribe, share, repost, whatever you want to do to help us support. That would be great. Next, we want to thank our sponsors. The first one up is Scramble Canada. Guys, Scramble, what I like about them, been with them since 2016. And if I had to link them with one word, it would be quality. Quality,
Absolutely.
longevity. I've had those camo indigo shorts, the blue ones. I did my ACL rehab with them. I went to the pool, to the sauna. I did a bunch of things with them, and they last.
Yeah,
So
they're like, I have some rash guards from Scramble that that you passed me on from someone else, like for 5 years, 4 or 5 years. They're still in great condition.
yeah, so quality, check it out. If you don't want your rash guard to turn into a V-neck after 3 uses, then check us out.
You can use my code or Taz's code.
Yeah,
Whoever, just come and support with Scramble Canada.
save some money and support and
Yeah.
represent at the same time. You want to look fresh. And then the rash guards, they're made in a way it makes you look 20% more jacked. 100%. 100%, no doubt.
Low key flex.
No key flex.
Next
we got Roll Forever. Betty Boo, we love you.
we do.
Betty's doing a lot of amazing things. She has done a lot of amazing things, and she's going to be doing a lot more amazing things.
She keeps helping athletes
Yeah.
locally and internationally now.
Yeah.
She's helping us for traveling, competing, and we have the quintet soon, and she's been helping out. So
Yeah. And there are many things like on the low,
Yeah.
obviously. And then how we can make sure she can keep helping us and more jiu-jitsu athletes and more things. Give her a little follow, share her things, go give her a like, double click on her things. It could go a long way, These
Yeah.
little things seem
And-
small, but they go a long way.
And if you want to represent, you can hit me up on my Instagram. I have some beautiful rash guard from Roll Forever. So if
Mhm.
you're around Montreal, or if I'm traveling around,
Nice design.
hit me up. Yep.
Good quality too. Very well done. Next up, we got Kimura soap. Kimura soap, guys. You train, you got to clean up. You want to stay fresh. Organic soap. You can dilute it. A small bottle can last you up to 3-4 months. Good quality stuffs. Check it out. We'll have all the what's it called, the promo codes and whatnot in the description. Read the description, waste man. All right, make sure to check it out. Our next sponsor, Mizu Studio, Valerio, the Soviet tank that should get on the podcast. And more and more people are requesting him to get on the podcast.
We're getting asked to have you on the podcast. It's
Some
gonna come.
resistance. I don't know where it's coming from. We'll figure it out. We'll get to the bottom of
We'll
it.
press that record button, and you just sit in between.
Just
me
sit
and,
here, yeah.
in between our crutches.
Yeah. Just join the crotch shot
party.
crew. Yeah. Hey. Mizu
up,
Studio,
yeah.
guys. Last night we had a 50+ open mat. It was
crazy.
the craziest thing. I walked in a little late. I had to link up with the family beforehand. So when I walked in, there was literally no room to put
was
my
insane.
shoes. Yeah. And what's amazing about it is we're having instructors from all over Montreal come down and teach. We have wrestling coaches. We have gi specialists. We have no gi specialists. We have Valerio. We have
Women's classes.
women's classes. We have kids classes. We have a cool program. It's open mind. It's super chill. Everybody's welcome, and I mean it. Everybody is welcome from all gyms, all schools. We want the community to grow as a whole, and just swing by, give it a shot, check it out. If you don't want to come all the way, check us out on Instagram, Mizu Studio. Give it a like, give it a follow. Could go a long way. We got Origin Labs, Molk, best protein in the game. Get some. Anybody else I'm forgetting?
That's it.
I think we made the we
got Physiomentum. too, yeah,
Physiomentum.
of course.
Fuck. You know why I forgot about them actually? Because I'm not feeling any pain in my body. You know why? Because they fix you up good.
Yeah,
That's how good they are. They're so good that I forget about like, hey, okay, yeah, they're there. They're there.
Great excuses.
Great excuses.
But yeah, if you need any work on your body, they're the best in Montreal,
Mhm.
Kirkland area,
Mhm.
beautiful place,
Oh yeah.
and they'll fix you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll fix you up. It's a cool environment, kind of like here, kind of like Mizu Studio.
Very
You walk
open.
in, you got Tom, you got Guy, Jeremy. The whole team is just super chill. Literally, my shoulder was fixed within 2 days. Like I said, I forgot about them because of that. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We're really happy with the way the podcast has been going. It's growing. It's getting better. We're gonna be taking off to Miami. We're gonna be having some.
Yeah.
We're gonna be having some episodes with some cool guys like JT, Gordon. We're gonna have the Rotolo brothers, Mike Perez, Kainan.
It's gonna
So
be sick, man.
stay tuned.
Hope you
We're
enjoy.
yeah,
And guys, if you want to send us some questions, do so. We're gonna answer them when me and Taza ramble,
yep.
like on some episode where we're the two of us. So
Just ramble.
Send some question our way. All right.
Exactly. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the feedback. Thanks for letting us know what you like, what you don't like. And until then, safe in it.